John O'Neill, Unfit for Command, the Swift Boat book against John Kerry. And I've written, I think, 12 or 13, 14 books since 2004, 5 New York Times bestsellers. 2 of them were #1 New York Times bestsellers.
So they were scared of you. And again, that's the real evidence that it's credible, not just using somebody else's Social Security number, not just the government saying his dad basically wasn't his dad, a sham marriage. That's now come out. Not just, I think one of the biggest things is that the Bush administration quietly checked with their government and got the letter back, and they said, well, it's been removed. Well, if something was removed from his birth, there wouldn't be anything to remove if he wasn't born in Kenya.
Well, that's right. I did extensive research in Kenya. I was in Kenya. I was detained in Kenya, deported from Kenya for wanting to do a press conference revealing the ties between Obama and Odinga, who's now the prime minister. Look, the Kenyan government has notified the U.S. government there's reason to believe that there was a systematic destruction of birth records in Kenya so as to remove the evidence of Obama's birth in Kenya. And the documents are missing, not because they never existed, but the birth documents in Kenya are missing because the government removed them from the public files. Alex, the reason the attorney for the White House did not show up in the Georgia hearing is because the White House knew they would lose. If these issues were really adjudicated in a fair court or given a fair hearing to the American people, I think shows like yours would bring the truth forward, and the president can't stand the light of day on these issues. The real documents, the original birth documents in Hawaii that are supposed to exist, are still under seal. They're still secret. You can't see them. I can't see them. We have to believe the Xerox copies handed out by the White House and the electronic file. There was no electronic birth certificate in 1961. It's a complete forgery. It was created on a computer, and it's a lie. And the American people, I think, are catching on to that. Barack Obama has lied about being adopted in Indonesia. It was Barry Soetoro or Barry Soebarka. We have that information now in his mother's passport application. When she removed Barry Soetoro from her passport, put down Soebarka, when they were in Indonesia, when Barry Soetoro, what is his real name, was there from ages 6 to 10. We don't have school records. You can't get his applications to Occidental or Columbia or Harvard, or whether he got foreign student loans. Can't get his passport records. This is the most hidden president, that we've ever had in American history. And it's that way for a reason, because Barack Obama cannot stand for American people to know the truth, which is he's not a natural-born citizen. He gave up his citizenship, natural-born citizenship, when he was adopted in Indonesia. His father was Kenyan, which should have disqualified him from the beginning. And he's lied about being born in Hawaii. So the entire public life of Barack Obama is nothing but a lie. And it has to be protected by the mainstream media, because the mainstream media doesn't want the American people to know we've got a political media. The First Amendment is largely dead.
Now, I want to get any other points you've got to make on this subject and then shift gears on something you predicted more than a decade ago, this derivatives-induced global meltdown, and then also how Iran ties into this. You were on with us, 3 or 4 months ago, and you said, look, you're going to see more covert actions inside Iran. The war has already begun. Now that idea that the war is actually going on for a while is now basically admitted.
Yes, that's right. But just to go back to the finish off on Obama, what I want people to be aware of is not only is Georgia the state where the Obama's right to be on the ballot is being contested, is not being eligible. There's like 5 other states. I think there's going to be eligibility challenges in every state. It just takes one voter in a state to challenge the eligibility. And also, Sheriff Arpaio in Maricopa County is conducting a law enforcement investigation of Obama's birth certificate and of his eligibility to be president.
And notice as soon as that started, the feds basically raided him for human rights violations.
And the feds came down on him. And look, this entire Department of Justice in Arizona is a corrupt office. You've got a corrupt Department of Justice in Washington that's got a political agenda to open the borders.
Wait, I gotta stop you. It's not enough to call them corrupt with Fast and Furious. This is a group of larcenous criminals. Even CBS News admits they launched Fast and Furious to blame the Second Amendment, and it's killed thousands in Mexico and at least 3 police and 2 Border Patrol here.
Yeah, the idea was to argue that the guns in the Mexican drug war were sold to them from the United States so as to limit the Second Amendment. I've got the evidence. I've written about that. The Mexican government was saying 80% of the guns are coming from the United States. It was all a lie. That was why Fast and Furious occurred. But now it's money laundering. The border is not about illegal immigrants. The border is about $2 trillion of money laundering going through the U.S. and world banks with the complete understanding and cooperation of the American government. I'm about to release that information. But look, the Arpaio investigation, which is going to come out on Obama, I think is going to be the first law enforcement investigation. It's being done very seriously. And the sheriff has said we're going to have the results of that in February. So that results are coming forward very quickly. And that's, I think, going to be another report where the American people are going to get more of the truth from a genuine, honestly done law enforcement investigation. And I'm very much anticipating what that result is going to be.
All right, Doc. We are too. Let's shift gears now into the economy and then segue into your view on where the Iran situation is going.
Well, as I predicted, again, you're right. I've been writing about this meltdown. My Red Alert newsletter at WND.com. I've been doing everything I can to tell people that what we've got now is essentially an international Ponzi scheme. We're printing money. We printed trillions of dollars of money. Barack Obama's got $6 trillion in deficit. And increasingly, I'm believing that's good for the global elite because they figured out how to steal through money laundering a portion of all the debt that's created. I think that's really what this is about. Secondly, there's no way $6 trillion of debt created by Obama in 3 years, when it took the history of the Republic to get $10 trillion in debt accumulated. This is a conscious plan to undermine the economies of the world, to say what we need is one world currency, a one world bank. It's just like Europe. The euro ought to break up. Greece ought to cause the first country to leave the euro. Instead, the globalists are pouring trillions of dollars in euro. The Federal Reserve just put $1 trillion in the euro.
And using the crises they created to grandstand as the saviors and say countries are going to waive all their rights now to this financial group. So It's an open financial dictatorship of the international banking cartel. That's exactly what Barry Goldwater said the Trilateral Commission was trying to set up in his 1970s book with no apologies.
Well, and it's what, again, I point to with Greece. Greece has just been told by Germany that the European Union will now take sovereign control out of Greece's hands on their own budget. And it will be the European Union that can intervene and tell Greece what it can and cannot do with its government operations. The EU is taking over Greece. And that was the plan from the beginning. Now, the only thing is I think that the globalists are going to finally overextend and bankrupt themselves, because I don't see how this house of debt can sustain itself any longer. And the solution is not going to be to go to a global currency or a global international monetary fund controlled economy worldwide. It's going to be to break up and to go back to national economies and local economies. The Americans have got to understand, when I wrote America for Sale and warned that the globalists were going to create this crisis to try once and for all to get global control of the economy. And we've got to fight it by saying, let's go back to the 10th Amendment. Let's say where government is overextending, it is no longer exerting legitimate powers. I'm expecting the United States is closer to a breakup than it's been since the Civil War. And we're going to find in the next 4 years states saying they don't want to participate anymore with the federal government. Use the 10th Amendment. Tell the federal government to take back welfare, take back the schools. The state will run its own schools. And those states which go this path of the 10th Amendment, basically calling it a return to the 1776 nation. And I think it's the only thing that has a chance to save us from the globalism that will ultimately enslave every person on the planet.
Well, I mean, the globalists are so ridiculously transparent. I mean, they're running everything. They're standardizing everything. They're attacking every form of liberty. They're taking over even cities inside the U.S. and having them jack up power rates for carbon taxes and paying it to GE. Every week it's billions of bailout money to move General Electric's X-ray division to China or General Motors to China or Brazil. I mean, these people, they're not even just globalist. They really hate America. And they always claim, oh, we're doing it for America. No, they want to fully bankrupt this country. Why is that, Dr. Corsi?
Well, you got to follow the money. Take a look at these cases like Solyndra and these other energy cases. Everybody involved knew that these were going to be bankrupt. And if the technologies worked, China would come in and do them cheaper anyway. But the people behind these companies over and over again are backers of Obama, people who have indebted their whole career to the globalist elite. And they get a payday. They get a payoff. And, even the banks and money laundering. You get penalties. Well, major banks reserve a couple $2 billion for paying money laundering penalties. It's the price of doing business.
You and I would go to jail,
right?
But Wells Fargo and Goldman Sachs, and of course,
none of them are going to go to jail. Criminal penalties are going to get waived. They'll pay a couple $1 billion in fines, which is a cost of doing business.
But who's Wells Fargo caught with the $376 billion in laundered drugs? Bloomberg reported in just 2 years, they paid $111 million fine. That's less than 0.3% on hundreds of billions. And look, it's Warren Buffett, who just shut down the big pipeline from Canada to bring us oil. Bloomberg again reported, this is admitted that Buffett is now going to make huge profits off the trains taking it to the West Coast to ships to China. I mean, these people openly are waging war against our country.
Well, that's what people got to realize. When we're running trillions of dollars of deficits, there's hundreds of billions of dollars being stolen by the global elite and put on the taxpayers as debt. When you get a situation where there's a major drug war going on in Mexico, $2 trillion of the Mexican drug business is no good in $100 bills. You know how much $1 trillion in $100 bills weighs? You can't move it. You've got to get it into the banking system. The bankers provide it. The regulators allow it. The Federal Reserve is in on it. And occasionally they slap their wrists with
And they see everybody else just trying to live as competition, so they write laws they're exempt from to shut us down. It's called monopoly crony fascism.
You're going to have two classes. You're going to have those who are in on the deal and who shut up and do extremely well, and then everybody else who's going to be facing unemployment, bankruptcy, starvation, ridicule. But if you dare oppose it, if you dare speak out like I do, Alex, or like you do, then you run risk of being marginalized.
Remember the car dealerships? They said if you're a Chevy dealership, this came out in Congress 3 years ago. Nobody got in trouble. If you own a car dealership and aren't a Democratic Party donor, we're taking your dealership from you, in some cases worth $3 to $5 million, and giving it to our people. And people were sent letters and told, you no longer are a Chevy dealership now that the government owns this. We're giving this to somebody else. You still own the land. You better sell some other cars now. I mean, these people are open mafia dons.
It's same with you're ridiculed as a birther because you dare ask for proof of Barack Obama's nativity. Well, the Democrats weren't birthers when they were questioning John McCain.